This video is powered by Manscaped.
Go to manscaped.com/fancam for 20% off your order and free shipping.
Keep your boys in top form with Manscaped.
I'm here with Shiroi. Arsenal 4, Leicester 2. A game that I would describe as a proverbial game of two halves, meaning that the two halves are very different from one another. I would say in the first half, Arsenal completely dominated the game. 2-0 up at half-time, and I'm thinking to myself, we're going to go on and really cook these guys. But then within a minute of the second half, the game had a completely different complexion with Leicester scoring and then going on to score the equaliser. So give me your thoughts overall of that game.
Yeah, I don't want too many more games like that this season. I'm not sure if I can make it out alive, Laurie, if we have too many games like that this season. But look, in the words of Pep Guardiola leading into the weekend, we're at war. And City this morning had a chance to fire the first shot of the weekend. They missed their shot. We had to make sure we didn't miss. Because anyone who watches The Wire knows that the late, great Omar said, if you come at the king, you best not miss.
That's true.
City dropped points this morning, and that's why this game, I mean, look, it was always important because I tend to look at these fixtures in clusters. I looked at the first 5. We came out of them really well, but I'm now looking at those in the future. It's not too far away now when we have Liverpool, Newcastle and Chelsea, I think, in that order. So Leicester at home, no disrespect to them. This was a should win, this was a must win. And I'm glad we got it over the line. I mean, I predicted a 2-0 before the game. I said it was going to be a professional performance, a cool, calm, collected performance where we keep them at range. And I felt as though there was no indication that any of the players were going to get complacent. There was no hint that this was going to creep into this team. We get to half-time at 2-0, and it almost felt as though everything I had said was going to fall flat on its face in that second half, because the way that we came out for that second half, the way that we gave away the ball leading up to their first goal, the ever so slight lack of nous to give away the free kick that leads to their first. I know it was lucky in that it took a nick. The second one, if you remember, in the first few minutes of the first half, Vardy's holding on to the ball. 3 or 4 players are dragged out, including Calafiori, who leaves, I think it was Justin then, leaves him free at the back post. Justin takes a little bit too long, we get away with it. Justin doesn't take too long for the second one this time. He learns his lesson, and at 2-2, I'm not one of those people that's going to sit there and say that I thought everything was going to end up rosy afterwards. You can see me on the watch along. When I see the goalkeeper save that one from Havertz, where he does a brilliant bit of work and on the turn connects well, keeper gets an incredible hand to it and it doesn't fall to an Arsenal player. We get given the ball. Rice does so well, capitalises on their mistake, gives it to Trossard right in front of goal. I wouldn't have wanted it to fall to anyone else. Trossard puts it at a savable height. Calafiori, wonderful header, keeper saves. There were so many of those moments, and I've watched enough Premier League football to know that sometimes, even if you're dominating the opposition, sometimes even if they've got 2 goals that had an element of luck, you may not get what you deserve. But fortunately, we did, so I don't need to dwell on any of that.
No, that's a very good point. And like I said, it was a game of two halves because like I said before, the first half we seemed to be in total control. In fact, try not to be too disrespectful to Leicester, I was kind of thinking they looked a poor team. But to be credit to them, they came out different. And like I said, when they got that first goal, you could see that their confidence grew a little bit. Now, was it a fact that Leicester came into the game so much, or were we a touch complacent, or lack of concentration? What did you put that down to?
It's very difficult for me to sort of look into the minds of the players, but if I'm looking at the approach in the first half, and I'm looking at the way we were on job for every minute bar the last 30 seconds against City, and the way that we were on job throughout the Tottenham game, I do get this feeling that we may not have given away possession as sloppily as we did up the pitch. We may not have given away the daft free kick. Particularly for the second goal, we may not have switched off at the back post and let the cross come in, had we been against opposition that in the back of our minds we thought was slightly more potent. I think there was an ever so slight element of, we weren't complacent at the beginning of the match because we played some wonderful attacking football, some wonderful free-flowing football. All that stuff about boring Arsenal. I mean, to end the game with over 30 chances created and some incredibly sort of piercing passes through the lines without Ødegaard, I thought was fantastic. But there was just an element of it, 2-0, second half. It looked as though certain players might have thought job done. But what I have to say, I have to give credit to the players because they're far stronger than I am. I was sitting there, I felt physically sick. I felt like I was on a turbulent flight until we scored the winner. They persisted. They stuck to their philosophy, but they also mixed it up. Whether it was holding the ball at the edge of the box and then looking for the runner, trying to get in behind, cheeky little dinks, getting it out wide, putting balls in the box, proactive subs, Sterling coming on, Ethan coming on, them being very direct. We tried absolutely everything. We did throw the kitchen sink at it. And what I was saying earlier about me worrying that you don't always get what you deserve, I do feel as though we absolutely got what we deserve today. But this should never have been a 4-2 game for me. It's not one of those games that I need to dwell on because we got the win. But we sit here and we talk about our defence. And we sit here and we talk about this sort of aura and this air that we have when we go away from home. I really want to develop that at home too, because for me, your home form is honestly one of the most, it's a bread and butter platform for a title challenge. You know, the reason I'm not going to be too critical here is because there was an element of fortune for their first and their second, even though the defending wasn't great. It was a fantastic strike. I don't know how many times he hits those and he hits them that sweetly. So it is what it is. But all I was thinking throughout that, I don't know if you were the same, all I was thinking throughout that at 2-2 is, man, we've just had to defend our team all week from an onslaught of criticism about the style of play and people that were levelling criticism as to mentality towards us for letting in that late goal against City. I think had we dropped points today, that mentality criticism, the volume would have just gone bang, 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 because all that we would have heard would have been City dropped points, you guys were talking about Rodri all week, you had the opportunity, the chips were down, and you fluffed it. Well, we didn't. We had conviction. We stayed patient, but we also stayed potent. And you're looking at players that have been relatively understated or who have come in for a little bit of stick across the season. I'm talking about the Martinellis of the world. I'm talking about the Trossards of the world. They were the reason that we won this game today. They were definitely the reason that we won this game today. And I'm not saying that they were perfect, but when they had those moments to impact the result of the game, for the vast majority of those moments today, they took them.
Yeah, you're right about those clutch moments. And I was going to ask you kind of preempted what I was going to ask you in terms of standout players and who impressed you. But yeah, Trossard and Martinelli. Anyone else that caught your eye today?
Yeah, I don't think it is being premature, you know. I know he's not been on the pitch for very long in all of the cameos that he's made, but there is just something about Ethan. We've got a lot of footballers that can be deadly when they get in behind, for example. We have a lot of footballers that are physically quite strong and good on the half turn. We don't have that many that can just face you up when you're facing them and beat you with a fantastic touch, bravery on the ball, and it looked like end product. Fantastic shot as soon as he comes on the pitch. And don't forget, he's been brought into a game where you're now in sort of must-win territory, the classic sort of what Fergie would have called squeaky bum time. He doesn't cower at all. He doesn't cower at all. He wants to impact the game and he does the right things. He made the right decisions. He held on to it when he had to hold on to it. He beat a man when he had to beat a man. He shot when he had to shoot. And I think that sort of addressed the balance to the extent that we carried a little bit more threat on that side. And then it sort of opened up gaps on the other. So in all honesty, I think throughout the game, we looked a lot better on the left and the right as opposed to just going down the right. But I think it needed freshening up at the moment, well, slightly earlier than when we brought the subs on, but you can't question it when he gets it right. You know, he got the subs right. I think they did impact the trajectory of the game. And I don't know if PSG is the game to start him. And I know that the position that we say he ought to start is the Trossard position, and you can't drop Trossard after what he did today. But I do think that we do need to find a way to get this guy integrated into the first 11 because he looks like he is a game changer to me.
100% agree. Impacted the game, looks confident, looks eager to make his mark. Very impressive. Now, I just want to pick you up on something that you said earlier. You spoke about, you look at the games in clusters. So we've just come off in terms of away games, a very difficult run of games. Tottenham away, Atalanta, a Serie A Italian side away in the Champions League. Then, of course, we had Man City, creditable performances. Now we've got a clutch of home games coming up, starting with the Carabao Cup. Cruise through that. One today, with something to spare in the end, I would say. We've got a couple of other games coming up that are just as important. PSG in the Champions League and Southampton in the Premier League. How are you looking forward to those? Are they winnable games? And if so, well, are they winnable games and who do you expect to see play in those games?
Yeah, I think they're all winnable, and I think the level that Arsenal are at right now, there aren't too many fixtures, certainly at home, that I would say aren't winnable. And I'm talking about any opposition in the world. And, you know, I might sound ridiculous, but I'm not saying it's a guaranteed win. But even if Real Madrid do end up coming to the Emirates in the Champions League this year, I'd probably describe that as a winnable game. I'm not saying that we're favourites, but that's the way that I look at this team. But Southampton and Bournemouth, I think, are the next two. Not just winnable, but in the scheme of a title race, and having looked at the fact that we dropped points in games, the banana skin games last year, I think that if we ever needed a warning shot, if we ever needed one, today was it. And we came out unscathed, so I want to see us a lot tighter and basically more of the first half. And if we do go in 2-0 at half-time against Southampton and Bournemouth, I wouldn't mind seeing a bit of boring Arsenal for the second to lock it off. The PSG one will be interesting because I haven't really sat there and done the maths. I don't know what it takes really in terms of results to finish where you want to in this new format. I need to sit down and look at it. But having drawn in the first one, and we don't have the easiest away fixtures in the Champions League. I'm not saying we have the hardest either, but I do think we should be winning our home games. And PSG, even though they're a formidable club, I don't think they're the force they once were. So I'm really looking forward to it. These are the nights we all wanted when we were outside of the Champions League, so bring it on.